I've just got back from seeing Oppenheimer. Well, not exactly, because the film never actually happened. I'm in Los Angeles, and I managed to get to a Hollywood screening, a public screening at a public cinema where they were showing a 70mm film print of Oppenheimer. Now, this is the 2023 epic biographical thriller written and directed by the British director Christopher Nolan. It's based on the 2005 biography American Prometheus, by Kai Bird and Martin J. Sherwin, and it's the story of Robert Oppenheimer, a theoretical physicist who was pivotal in developing the first nuclear weapons as part of the Manhattan Project, and thereby ushering in the atomic age. It stars Cillian Murphy, and really the recommendation is he shot this on IMAX film and 70mm film. It's being projected in some cinemas on film, on IMAX film and 70mm film. And so I went to see a 70mm print, which is 11 miles of film stock that is delivered to the cinema like in the olden days. And, film is very volatile and it's flammable and it's a chemical process. And so the whole point of seeing this is that Christopher Nolan doesn't like to work in digital. He likes the chemical process of film stock, from shooting in the camera, editing it, and then, of course, projecting it on film as well. So I was super excited to see it in 70mm. I couldn't get into an IMAX showing. They were all sold out. But one cinema was showing it in 70mm for a Thursday night preview before it opens on Friday. So I'm talking to you on Thursday night. I've literally just got back from the theater. I was there for an hour and mostly not watching Oppenheimer. The film started, and it was all good, and I saw the Universal logo, and that was great, came across the screen, and then Christopher Nolan's production company name came up on the screen, and then it appeared to burn out, and the film stopped, and the house lights came on. Now, I don't know if the actual film stock burned out because the projector light was too bright or something. I don't know whether this burnout visual that I saw was actually part of the movie and then the movie just stopped, or whether the burnout was actually the film catching fire in the projector. But all I know is they weren't able to show the film, and they tried to restart it several times, and they gave up in the end. So I was sitting there for an hour, and I've literally just returned from attempting to see a preview of Oppenheimer. Now, let's be very clear. A film version is very different to a digital projection. Most cinemas these days download their movies off the internet and project them digitally. So there is no film. There's no 11 miles of movie, as is the case with a 3-hour movie such as this on 70mm. 70mm is a rectangular print, whereas IMAX is the same but square, so it's an even bigger image on the screen. Christopher Nolan would like you to see it in film, either in IMAX or in 70mm, but ideally he wants you to see a film projected version. And I was not able to do that here in Hollywood, in Los Angeles, in the home of movies, because for some reason they weren't able to project it. Now this it's an interesting lesson, isn't it? Because automation and technology has changed everything, especially in the cinema. And the art of being a film projectionist is now ancient history, because projectionists are now called techs. And in a multiplex cinema, you'll have one tech who basically is running the projectors in maybe 6, 7, or 8 screens. And most things are automated. They might have to start the film, but that's all they do. And they just monitor it on computers. And there is, everything from the house lights going down to the curtains opening. It's all done automatically, which is, it's a sign of the times. And here was an opportunity for one of the movie houses in Hollywood to project an old-fashioned film, or a new film in an old-fashioned way on actual film stock, and it failed. Now, we asked a few questions, what's going on, and they claimed that this spool of film that they'd received had been wound too tightly, which meant that it jammed in the projector, and maybe that's when it burned out. look, when I go and see the film, I'll find out whether there is a kind of burnout effect in the opening of the movie. I'm not spoiling the movie, hopefully by saying this, but I don't know whether this burnout was part of the movie, because of course the movie's about an atomic bomb, and so there's a very good chance that it might burn out as part of a visual effect. But I actually think this was actually something that happened in the projector, and that we all saw it fizz and burn and then just stop. And then the house lights came up. And so we waited, and the house was full and everyone was very patient. A lot of people, I'm sure, were in the movie industry, working in the movie industry. I'm sure there was people on strike sitting there waiting to see this blockbuster the night before it opens officially in cinemas. And that was not the case. The people who ran the cinema came out and apologized, and they said, look, we'll try and get it going. And they couldn't. 10, 15, 20 minutes went by, and then they came out and said, look, we're going to run a DCP copy, which is the digital version, digital print. I'm sure it would have been a very good digital print, but that's not really why we were there. And of course, the aspect ratio changed. And in the process of the aspect ratio changing on the screen, the curtains got stuck and started to vibrate like they were just going back and forth. And then when an image did come on the screen, it was completely out of focus, a little bit like I was just then. So there was a lot of laughter. There was a lot of camaraderie from people in the audience. Everyone's talking to each other because, we were here for an historical cinematic moment. And what we got was an unmitigated disaster. And it was just a real shame because, we were all there supporting, wanting this to be a special night. So eventually they couldn't even get the digital version. They projected the universal image, and then that got stuck as a freeze frame. And then the kind of previews green screen appeared, and then that started to float out of focus up into the top, and it was just in and out of it was a disaster. And in the end, they just shut it all down, and the manager came out and said, look, I'm so sorry. I'm going to give you a full refund and tickets to come back and see whatever you like another time. So, did Oppenheimer catch fire? That's what I want to know. If you've seen it, you can tell me if there is a visual effect at the beginning with the production company logo, or whether that was actually something that I experienced tonight. And hopefully I'll get a chance to see this movie. I've been to see all of Christopher Nolan's films in IMAX on huge screens. My favorite is The Dark Knight, but I'm sure Inception or Interstellar or any of the Batman series you might be a fan of. Memento was his first kind of big movie. He, for me, is the greatest director of modern cinema. It's great that he's a Brit who's always well dressed with a cup of Earl Grey tea in his hand when he's directing, and let's hope that there'll be a chance to actually see this film projected in the format that the director intended. So if you've managed to see Oppenheimer, let me know in the comments down below. I'm Anthony Davis for 5 Minute News.